Welcome to Voice Rising with Kara Johnstad. Enjoy weekly conversations with leading luminaries, pioneering visionaries, singers, poets, musicians, and sound healers as we explore the profound role our voice plays on the path to self-realization and global enlightenment. The internationally acclaimed singer, composer, author, healer, recording artist, voice expert, creator of Voice Your Essence, and founder of the School of Voice, Kara Johnstad uses her extraordinary spiritual gifts to empower others. Everything in this world vibrates. Everything has a frequency. A pioneer in the field of voice work and transformational songwriting. Her breakthrough methods are helping thousands of people worldwide fine-tune their body-mind-spirit system and unlock the energetic frequencies of limitless creativity, health, and abundance. Share your voice, ask your questions, join in the conversation. Receive life-changing, positive transformation and rise together to create a sound world. And here's your host, Kara Johnstad.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's show. With me in the studio is the best-selling author and energy therapist, Amy B. Scher. Amy writes, teaches, and speaks on the topics of, quote, humaning and healing, end quote. As an energy therapist, she helps people release emotional baggage and become the happiest, healthiest versions of themselves. She is the author of 4 books, which have been translated into 13 languages. And today we're going to be focusing on her new release. It's coming out tomorrow on that big book market, and it's entitled How to Heal Yourself from Depression When No One Else Can. Welcome, Amy, to Voice Rising.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's an honor.
So, Amy, we are all on this journey of life with all its ups and downs, with all its goods and bads, and many bads going back to goods. We are the healing we've been waiting for. As an energy therapist, you work a lot with people who are obviously healing, who are looking for harmony and balance. What do you mean when you talk about helping people with humaning? I found that to be such a gorgeous word.
Thank you. This was something I came to in my own healing journey. I suffered from a chronic debilitating illness, actually a few of them, for almost pretty much a decade of my life, in my 20s. And one of the things that I realized, and of course, most of our listeners will know this, but one of the things I realized is that healing doesn't just happen in the physical body. We are, as a mind, body, spirit sort of essence, all part of our healing. It is an integrated process. And one thing that I had been trying in my healing process to do was force the physical healing of the body without looking at the patterns in my life. And the big pattern that I came across was that I wasn't very good at humaning. And by that, I mean allowing myself to be human. And so that term humaning comes from the idea that we can let ourselves truly be human with all the mistakes and imperfections and mishaps and misdirections we happen upon to our benefit. We can do that and do the humaning part of life as part of the healing process, which only expedites and supports the healing of the physical body or our emotional selves.
So it sounds like self-compassion, self-love, because sometimes we get certain rigid ideas that if we don't eat a certain way, or if we don't have our 10,000 steps a day, or if we don't meditate morning, afternoon, and night, and if we miss something, we feel guilty, or we feel ashamed, or we feel like that we did something wrong. So it's this way of just embracing that it's okay to drink a dark beer if you feel like it, or if it's, I don't know, it's okay to sleep during the whole day, even though you said you'd go to the gym. Yeah,
exactly. And it's okay to just lighten up on yourself and to lighten up about life, because through that process of looking at everything in a little bit more of a lighter way, including how seriously we tend to take ourselves, there is great healing that goes on in the mind, body, and spirit because of that lightening up. And so I was trying to do healing like I did everything else, which is with, rigid rules and perfection.
Yeah.
And really the humanness in us guides us. And when we try to exclude, making a mistake or having fun because we have to eat perfectly or whatever, we actually can misdirect ourselves on the in the healing process and on our healing path. So it's all about, bringing that lightness into our being.
So you spent your 20s very ill. I mean, very, very sick. Is that is going through that? And now I'm assuming you're feeling better. You're getting better.
Yes.
You're good.
Yes, and now I've been better for pretty much a whole decade. So now I'm tipping the scales
excellent.
to better for as long as I was sick. So that feels really
exactly.
good.
Oh, very good. So what is it, your curiosity or your research or just your exploration going through this that led you to the path of being an energy therapist? What were you dreaming of when you were 18 or when you were 15? Were you thinking of that healing aspect, or were you going in a totally different direction?
Totally different direction. I was a marketing director for Harley Davidson when I got sick. So totally different direction. Mm-hmm. Although I do think it's so interesting because a lot of the work that I did in marketing for Harley Davidson was all about freedom and lightness and having fun. And so it's kind of interesting that that's such a big piece that I bring in with my students. I teach classes and when I teach, I always say, we just need to be light about it. I want you to try to do, 10 to 20 minutes of energy work, a day. And if you don't, then just start over the next day. It's no big deal. Sometimes I want you to ditch out on energy work because you can go have a glass of wine with your friend. Or I want you to ditch out on energy work because you're so addicted to that trashy TV show. Like all of these things are so important on our healing process, but we get so sort of pigeonholed. So so I was doing something completely different, but I also think what I was doing sort of set the stage for what I ended up doing, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does make sense. And I actually always say that marketing is also like energy work, that if we see it as sharing our vision, sharing our voice, it is a lot of energy work. I think people
That's so
see
true.
it, so I think that it's the same, actually. Your new book, How to Heal Yourself from Depression When No One Else Can, it's full of a lot of very easy to implement techniques that have the power to help anyone to reconnect their mind with their body and their heart and their soul and to heal their lives. So can you share with us a couple of these techniques that you have found very helpful to bring us back into the somatic sensation, to bring us back to the body and work less on overanalyzing things and coming back to touch and breath?
Sure. So the idea behind all of my work is that we're releasing stuck energy, specifically emotional energy from the body. Because when we have stuck emotions in the physical body, we can manifest all kinds of emotional and physical symptoms. So the premise of all of my work is to release emotional baggage from the body. So I will teach 2 very quick techniques, and I'm just going to teach sort of a quick portion of them, and the rest of it is in the book, or you can find me on YouTube, but just for the purposes of us learning something quickly. And really all of my techniques from the book are super easy to learn, and they don't take a long time because I am probably one of the most impatient people you could ever meet. So when I was creating techniques and learning techniques for my own healing journey, I had to create and learn easy to implement techniques, because if they weren't easy or they took hours a day, I wouldn't use them. And I always tell people to to figure out which techniques you resonate with. Your best friend may be using some very complex technique that works really well, but if it's so overwhelming for you or time consuming that you'll never use it, it won't work. So for me personally, I needed the techniques to be effective, efficient, easy to use, and short in time span. So I'm going to teach you just two of the many techniques in the book. So one of them is called Thymus Tapping, and I'm saying Thymus, which is your thymus gland, which is the master gland of your immune system. It sits behind the breastbone in your chest. And tapping it is a very simple way to release stuck emotional energy while also supporting the function of that gland, which works with your stress response and also with your immune system. So let me tell you how to find the thymus gland. If you put your fingers where a bow tie would be on your neck, and you slide them down about an inch, and you tap just in that area, that's where your thymus gland is. Again, it's behind the breastbone, so you won't feel it or see it. But tapping there when you're feeling a lot of strong emotion, like feeling anxious or sad or disappointed, simply tapping there as you allow your feelings to come up will help them kind of process out of your body. By tapping, we're using a percussive effect to sort of tap through that energy so it sends a whoosh through your energy system, through your thymus gland, through your energy system, and sort of clears that stuck emotional energy. I like to pair it with saying, let go, let go, let go, and using that as a mantra. So if we could do that together, if everybody just closes their eyes for just a moment as they tap right there, I'll lead you through this. It's super easy. And once I do it once, you'll be able to use it all by yourself. And just think or feel into something that feels strong or upsetting or sort of is weighing heavy on you at the moment. And I think right now in this world, we have lots of things like that. But go ahead and just bring that up just temporarily. And what we're trying to do is bring it up to the surface. And go ahead and repeat after me. Let go, let go, let go. And again, let go, let go, let go. Keep tapping. And what we're doing here is we're giving gentle direction to the body to let go of something that it's been holding on to. And we're pairing it with the tapping so that the thymus gland and its connection to our energy system can help us clear that energy out. Let's do it one more time. Let go, let go, let go. All right, and take a big deep breath. And that's the practice. It's thymus tapping. And there are certain ways in the book that I teach you how to extend that practice to find very specific emotions from your past to clear those. Say, for example, feeling angry from age 24 or feeling sad from age 2 and to go back and really clear out your past. But that thymus tapping that I just taught you is a super simple way to just tap out some of those emotions in the moment that you're feeling overwhelmed. Easy enough?
Yeah. But no, it's very easy. I know thymus tapping also that the thymus is pretty big when we're kids, and it just keeps on shrinking unless we tap it. So it's a thumping that we need to do every day. We need to do that to stay healthy and well.
Yes, and the thymus gland is also in your heart center, in your heart chakra. So
Right.
tapping that energy can really help to clear out the heart chakra, stuck energy in the heart chakra, and balance it as well.
And many cultures also use it as a heart drum. They thump on it and keep their rhythm while singing. So this show is all about voice. So we love the thymus gland tap. You also talk about, which I think is very important, I know it from my own work and my own coaching, you talk about a secret sauce, which is go slowly. You talk about the protective layer or the protective space that our body has a place where it's safe. And sometimes if we're trying to move too fast, we can actually, fall back instead of moving forwards. Do you want to share with us how important it is, this embracing that we can, I guess that comes back to the humaning, but the embracing, the slowness of it all. Yeah.
Yes.
It's not a race.
No, I know we want it to be, right? Our first instinct when we're feeling bad is to feel better right away, right? That's totally normal. But what happens to most of us, and this is true, very, very true for depression, anxiety, and chronic illness, is that if you try to force healing too quickly, you will actually put your body in or help your body maintain a state of what many of you may know as fight, or freeze. I call it the freak out response in the body, when the body actually fights, flights, or freezes in a state of overwhelm. And when you're in that state, it is not the most conducive healing environment. And so when we are pushing and trying and insisting we feel better now and rushing the healing process, it actually slows it down because our body puts the brakes on. And I talk about this in depth in the book, and I teach exercises to undo this process in the body. But for right now, what's really important to know is that you can change it by changing your pace, spiritually, energetically, physically. I see a lot of people even rushing around to go to the bathroom, make a drink, eat lunch, all of this rushing and this insistence that I have to feel better right now, combing through the online forums to find the cure right this minute. I understand all of that because I have done that. Trust me, I have done that. And what it does is it really just slows down your healing because the body becomes so overwhelmed in that state that it's not conducive to healing. So when I talk about in the book about making micro movements, I'm talking about making tiny little changes so the body feels safe changing and safe moving forward and safe healing. It feels like it's going slower, but you actually do get to the end result faster.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. That's very, very wise. Very wise. Amy, we're going to take a very, very short break, and we're going to be back in a moment and dive more into your new book.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Life is a flow, and enlightenment is simply harmonizing with the way life really is. Then you find that life is effortless, benevolent, and free of all suffering. Hey everyone, this is GP Walsh, and I want to invite you to my brand new radio show that's launching right here on OMTimes Radio called The Flow of Enlightenment. I've been a spiritual teacher for decades, and my greatest pleasure is being able to share with you these deep and highly practical spiritual ideas. So join me in The Flow every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern and let yourself be transformed.
Coping-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
With happy clients all over the world, Kara Johnstad knows that your voice is the missing link to more authenticity, abundance, creativity, and health. An internationally acclaimed voice expert, Kara's breakthrough methods have helped thousands of people successfully heal their voice wounds and extinguish the story of self-doubt and shyness forever. Join in group trainings, attend online sessions, schedule one-on-one time, and invite Kara to work with your organization and community. Get started today. Go to www.karajohnstad.com and receive a special guided meditation designed to fine-tune your inner voice and welcome you on the voice journey.
Welcome back to Voice Rising. I am your host, Kara Johnstad, and with me in studio is Amy B. Scher. Amy B. Scher is an energy therapist, and we are talking about her newest book on basically healing depression in a very human, natural, easy, respectful way. Amy, you talk about in the book that there are two dynamics that we often aren't aware of that can contribute to depression. And luckily, these two dynamics are also contributors to healing. And one is energetic sensitivity, and the other is inherited energy. What is the difference between the two, and why is it so important?
Well, they sometimes overlap, but energetic sensitivity is when we feel or have our own energy systems interrupted by those around us, and not by fault, not by anybody's fault, yours or the other person's, but that we can just tend to feel that energy more than maybe other people can. And so that's what energetic sensitivity is. And inherited energy, or bringing in someone else's energy, is really all about being born with our ancestors' energy that they carried and some of their emotional trauma. So sometimes these things can overlap, but I sort of see them as two independent things. Sometimes people will have both and they'll play into each other. But working with clearing inherited energy can be very, very helpful with depression, because a lot of people explain depression to me as something that they have no point of origin for. Some people know, I got depressed after I lost my job, or I lost a family member, or whatever, a divorce, that type of thing. But most people say, it just kind of came on, or I don't really know why I'm depressed. And I actually describe depression as the literal depression of self. It's what happens when we get depressed or suppressed because we are overwhelmed with the stuff of life, with trauma, with stress, we kind of get buried, and we end up being suppressed or depressed, which is what depressed means, is to push down. That's the exact definition of depressed. And sometimes we are pushed down or depressed because we are carrying stuff from our parents, our grandparents. In the same way that we inherit DNA and genetic traits, we can inherit energy. And there's been a lot more in terms of research in this in the last 5 to 10 years. And when we go back to talking about energetic sensitivity, we can be depressed or pushed down in part by feeling heavy because we're carrying the energy of those around us, or our energy system is imbalanced because we are sensitive to other people's energies. So I teach in the book how to apply the same techniques that you'll use to clear your own emotional baggage to use on these things, which is carrying other people's energy, including those around you and from your ancestors.
So do you see depression or suppression or repression as the flip side of expression? I mean, it seems, for me, I'm an artist, so my whole life is transformation through artistry. And it just seems to me that when we're kids, there's a lot of joy happening. And there's a lot of joy because we are so in flow with, number one, our emotional fields, and number two, we're not really judged, right? When we cry, do we have a good cry? It's like we don't start getting judged until we get older, like school age. But when a 2-year-old has a tantrum, it's more like, oh, okay, we got to just go through this, right? I mean, we don't say, we don't try to analyze the tantrum. Not really. We're just kind of like, oh, maybe she's tired or whatever. But, and there's a lot of drawing, there's a lot of dancing, there's a lot of bouncing, there's a lot of deep connection with the body. Do you think that there's so much depression because we are just running from one thing to the other, experiencing a lot of things, like you were saying at the beginning? We are in the midst of a global pandemic. We have people losing their jobs. We have we have climate crisis where glaciers are falling off of, huge pieces of glaciers are falling into the ocean. We have just social justice issues. So we have a lot of stuff that we are absorbing through the news and through conversations and through living in this world, but we're not able to express always as quickly as we're able to absorb. What does expression play in your healing work?
Yes, I love this perspective, and I do talk a lot about this in the book and in my work, which is that depression is essentially being buried in a way that cuts us off from ourselves. And I think you could look at it, a chicken or the egg sort of scenario, where when we get cut off from ourselves, we get depressed, and when we get depressed, we get cut off from ourselves. But I do think that expression piece is really important, because that is how we stay connected to ourself and our flow. Whether it's using the voice, whether it's art, whether it's just being out in the world. A lot of us, are not artistic or don't resonate with joy in being artistic, but our movement in the world, our travel, our whatever the expression of the true self is. With depression, what happens is the true self gets depressed or suppressed, because it gets buried under the stresses, the traumas of life, the beliefs, the stuff that holds us back. And so I do think expression really, really plays a role. And through the book and the work, what I teach people to do is release the stuff, the emotional baggage that's on top of us, to allow our true selves to emerge. Because when we release the stuff, our true selves emerge, and our reconnection to joy and spirit and art and whatever keeps us alive comes back. And that's the idea.
Yeah, you have a beautiful quote in the book from Shannon Kaiser, which says, "Joy sat me down and said, it's time to talk. I've missed you."
Yes.
Which, and I think, from my experience too, that, I guess my conditioning also as an American, we're very conditioned to see success and busyness and having a full schedule. It doesn't matter what you're doing, even if you're taking your kids to baseball practice 5 times a week, or it's hard to find joy when there's still so much to do, right? I think that when I'm in other countries, because I'm living in Europe, in, for example, Italy, it's very often that the people have a lot to do, but it's very sacred that they just have siestas, or they just take time, or in the heat of the day, they close all the shops. I mean, you will not get a shop between 1 and 3. They're all closed because they're sleeping and having lunch with the big family, right? And so what is your sense? Do you inspire people to find little joys? I mean, to find, like you said, slow movements. I mean, the little joy maybe of just having a coffee. Like, it doesn't have to be a big joy, just a little joy.
Yeah, and I think this is where this being lighter and taking things lighter comes in, because when you do, your perspective of importance shifts, right? And this is what it is. I've spent a lot of time in Italy and a lot of time in Europe. My wife is actually from England. So I understand this totally different culture that it's hard to understand when you live in the States. But I think it's important not to take ourselves so seriously and take our work so seriously when we are able. Now, we have to understand socioeconomic factors, and we all have our own limitations and our own obligations. But when we are able, I think it is our obligation to take ourselves and life as lightly as possible, and to make enough space for the joy, because it is really hard to force joy. I really think, I remember my own healing journey. It was like, yes, you try to find the gratitude every day. Yes, you try to look for things to be thankful for. That is all really good, but or to be creative, to express, but there has to be a space for that. And I think the way that you make a space for that, even in a very, very busy schedule, is you make things as light as you possibly can, because that allows for space without a huge change in your schedule. So instead of turning off the computer for 2 hours in the middle of the day, try to take things less seriously. Can you respond to that email in 2 sentences instead of explaining yourself, which will take 15 minutes? Those are the things that I tend to do, because I think they're more reachable. I think that by lightening up your perspective versus maybe your schedule, or shifting things, it's an easier way to start. Do I really need to make that dinner from scratch? Tonight, can I just go get it? Or can I, does it matter if we don't eat our vegetables for one night? Whatever it is there an easier, lighter way to look at this or do this? For me, that's where the magical space comes in my brain and my body, where I start to feel joy.
Yeah, yeah. You were talking about emotions before and dealing with feelings, emotion. I know it also has energy and motion, right? So there's somewhere in the book where you're talking about you're asking your friends, I hope I remember this correctly, but basically, and you realize that so many of them are struggling with these pretty heavy, some of them even heavy emotions. Grief is one, fear is one, sadness, or anger, I think, right? So sadness and
Yes,
grief,
you
I don't
got
know,
it.
anger probably.
Yes, you got it.
And you talk about almost as if we, well, this is what's in my memory. You talk about it's like a tether to our core. That's that's the tether is what I remember is the word tether. And it's kind of like we've lost, in a way, what you were talking about before, this connection to our true self. So we're like running through this world, or we're not able always to process. We're buried and buried and buried. What do you think this tether is that connects our stories to our soul, or connects our mind, body, spirit system, that keeps it all in harmony, that keeps it all in flow? Did you find that missing link?
Yeah, I really think this, and you have an excellent memory. That is these are the exact things I said, which is that when we get depressed, what I realized by asking friends and people around me was that we had lost the tether to our core, which is that deep connection. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a couple of things which are really, either supportive or detract from this tether to our core. Mm-hmm. And what detracts is one, emotional baggage. When we get overwhelmed with emotion and trauma and we don't know where it should go, it gets stored in the body. We don't do anything with it. We don't process it. It gets stored in the body, and it becomes a wedge in between us and ourselves, and us and our joy and that core. The other thing, which is, this is the first time I've ever talked about this in a book, and this is the third in this healing series about how to heal yourself from various things. But what I learned is we also have a responsibility to take action in our lives based on our needs and desires when we are able. So I see such a trend now in the last few years about, all these great spiritual principles, like, trusting in the universe and doing energy work and intention prayers, and all of these things are so helpful. But one trend that I've seen in the last few years is that people give up their free will in place of these things, which means there is a time and place to trust the universe. There is a time and place for meditation and energy work, but there is also a time and place and an obligation to do what you are able to do to drive your life toward what will fulfill you. And I think that's a problem, and how we become disconnected to our core is that sometimes we fall in a passive position of waiting around for the universe to orchestrate something for us that we could do for ourselves, that we could make a decision about, that we could, I tell this story where, I get a very good number of emails a week and a month and a year that say to me, I'm in a toxic relationship, I feel suffocated, I'm not supported, I feel depressed. And they go on, and then they say, what energy work can I do? And I always write back and say, there's so much energy work you could do to support yourself, but are you able to leave the toxic relationship? You shouldn't sit in a toxic relationship and be trying to meditate your way out of trying to have to make the decision that it's unsafe or unhealthy and you should leave. There are certain times in our life where we cannot get away from taking the action we need to take to make our lives better. And so that's just sort of an example of, so it's the emotional baggage, and then also making the decisions and the moves that will help us feel better.
I remember a very powerful moment in my life, and I was in India in an ashram, and I was meditating, and everything was all this, sacred, holy, almost transcendental, what you're saying is that it's not always helpful. Sometimes we need these hands-on moments. And I was sitting there and talking also about my relationship, and the teacher, he said, Kara, what would you do if somebody came into your living room and threw garbage on your carpet. And I said, well, I would tell him to clean it up. And he said, then why do you allow, why are you always trying to be so understanding with every single person in your life that you're allowing them to throw shit in your brain, basically? And then you sit there and say, well, and it was a really big wake-up call for me, and I've never forgotten it. I was like, and so now it's very clear. So I do get you. I mean, toxic relationships, they are complex. It's also the sensitive and empaths that seem to always be attracted because they are the healers, and they sometimes wish to heal, right? People that are maybe not in balance. But that image, it stayed with me for a long time. What would you do if someone threw, I don't know, horse shit on your carpet or on your bed?
Yes.
You tell them to clean it up or to go. I mean, that would be pretty easy. That's the physical realm. But somehow emotionally and spiritually, we feel guilty. We feel like we need to be there and listen and understand, but we don't.
Of course. And maybe that's where these practices come in. But it's so funny how sometimes we forget, like, oh, we could just make a choice. Like that even applies to smaller things during the day. If I'm overwhelmed at the amount of work I have to do, does it make sense to sit and meditate or just do the work really quickly? Do you know what I mean? Like there are, and maybe meditation would help me do the work really quickly, or energy work, or whatever it may be. But sometimes the best thing to do to feel better is to take action. Again, when you are able, these tools can certainly help to give you the courage and the balance and the harmony to make easier decisions. But don't forget that option is there. We have free will, and we're physical beings in a physical world. We can change things.
Yeah, and I do know from tapping, I do know it personally from my own practice that it's lovely because you get into a very calm place relatively quickly. And then from there, you can make a good decision and take action in the appropriate way. So, Amy, we're going to take one last short break, and then we're going to come back and talk even more about how we can get out of depression and just be the human beings we're meant to be on this journey.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. ascendinghearts.com.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at EJI.org.
Welcome back to Voice Rising. I am your host, Kara Johnstad, and with me in studio is the author and energy therapist, Amy B. Scher. Amy, we were just talking about everything actually under the sun. I wanted to touch briefly on beliefs. What are beliefs, and why are beliefs so important on our healing journey?
This is one of my favorite topics because beliefs are so important, and I never realized it until I really dug into my own healing. And beliefs are so important because they drive not only our behavior, but a lot of our biological processes in our body. So beliefs are things that we believe that may or may not be fact, and we tend to fight that things we believe are definitely fact. But an example of this is if you have a belief that you are undeserving of healing or happiness or health, your body responds to that. So if your deep belief in your subconscious mind or deep core belief in your body is that you are undeserving and you're doing all of these things to try to feel good and be happy and take care of yourself, there will be a disconnect there. And your beliefs really drive many of the outcomes of what you're going for. So if you believe you're undeserving and you're doing all of these different therapies or practices or even intention to feel better, the belief that you're undeserving will dictate how things turn out for you because of how the body works, how the physiological process works, and how the subconscious mind works, which means that everything you're doing will be the opposite, will be doing the opposite of that message, I'm undeserving, and will stop you from reaching your goals as you would if you believed that you were deserving of all these things. So there's a big section in the book about changing beliefs using a technique that I created called the sweep script. And it's about sweeping these old beliefs out of the subconscious mind. So that if you were believing or are believing at a subconscious level that you're undeserving of healing, you can release that old belief and reprogram yourself in a way that you believe you are deserving of healing, so that everything that you're doing is in full alignment with your deep core belief, which is an absolute game changer for feeling better. You have to believe you can heal, that you're deserving of healing, that it's possible for you to heal. All of these things are really important so that whatever you're doing is actually helpful for your process and for your path.
Yeah, I find this very fascinating also with voice work, that the scripts, we do use our voice to talk to our body. And I think many of us are, I include this for myself, even though I spent years meditating and, on the path. But still, sometimes you say something and you're amazed at a short moment of self-hate, or I'm never going to do this, or I'm never going to make this, or that are very deep because they're in those first 7 years, right? The subconscious. And it's just, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal how we can keep on going layer by layer by layer, and that we can literally with our words, and that's what I understood from your book. With scripts, of course, you can, in a way, basically reprogram the programs that are also other people's voices that you've taken on and made into your own belief systems. I don't know if it's always our own voice. I think it's a lot parents' voices, teachers' voices, friends' voices, certain emotional moments where we chose to believe something because something happened to us, and then we decided, we're never going to be, when I was little, the belief was, you're either an artist or you're an athlete kind of thing, or you're either smart or you're an athlete. All these kinds of weird beliefs, right? So it's phenomenal that we can, with these sweep techniques or use our own word. You give a script in the book. You give scripts. It's not even one script. I think you give a few scripts. So that's I was just curious, that's our beliefs and our healing journey. And now we're in a collective moment on the planet. What would happen if we as a community or we as a collective took one of these scripts and worked on it collectively to change the belief systems that are no longer serving our planet? For example, an overconsumption of, I guess we all need to agree on the script, but we know sometimes that, overconsumption of plastic that's hurting our oceans or whatever. Do you think we can use these scripts collectively at some point in time to up-level the healing of the planet?
I do, but I also think individually, the more we each do our own work, the healthier and clearer our own perspectives and beliefs and actions are. So by doing this work as we evolve and heal on an individual level, we are almost healing the planet collectively.
That's
because
true.
when we
That's true.
right, because when we become healthier and more in harmony, we do actually make better decisions for the planet. We have the space, we're tapped into joy, we're more creative in our ideas. So I do think, I love the idea of collectively sweeping, but I also think individually, if enough people do the work, I love the idea of how we could do each do our own piece of a collective, of a bigger collective piece.
That's so true. What is your experience? I know you touch on the books on all the chakras. I'm, of course, so curious about the throat chakra as a singer. What is your experience? Brainstem, thyroid, throat, vagus nerve, mouth, tonsils, expression, etc. What's your experience working with the voice and working with the throat energy?
So important, the throat chakra, as you already know, for all the reasons you said, but also because the throat chakra is the bridge between the heart chakra and the third eye chakra, which is where we intuit things, right? Which is where our intuition, our intuitive chakra, and our heart chakra, which is our heart space. And so what I find is working with the heart chakra, I find that those three chakras are very, very linked. So when somebody has a blocked throat chakra, I tell them, don't only work with the throat chakra, work with the chakra above and below, because if the blockage is above or below, it will stop the flow to your throat chakra, even if the throat chakra isn't holding all that much stuff. So I love the throat chakra because I feel like it's so important for so many reasons, but also as a channel or a tunnel between the other two chakras. And so working with the throat chakra is so important because it covers so much physical terrain, but also because of the self-expression, also because of the voice, your inner voice, I feel comes from much of the throat chakra. What you say outwardly and what you say inwardly. So we all know the importance of self-talk, right? And how that negative self-talk can have an impact. And I feel like working with the throat chakra also helps improve our self-talk, which improves our outlook on life greatly. And anybody who has negative self-talk will understand what I'm saying here. But the throat chakra is so important for not only for singing and voicing outwardly, but for what we tell ourselves and what we believe as well.
I agree. I can only agree. I think it's a lot of people are talking a lot about heart-brain coherence, et cetera. Well, the throat is right in the middle, balancing the emotional and the contemplative and concentration and with the emotions. And it's just such a beautiful chakra. It's my passion. Amy, you have a book coming out tomorrow. We're very lucky. It's already 8 p.m. in Berlin, or 9 p.m. So in 3 hours, right? 3 hours, the fireworks are gonna go off.
Yay!
You have something also you'd like to share with our listening audience, if they do buy the book, if they want to go in that direction. Do you want to tell our listeners a little bit more about that?
Sure. For anybody who does resonate and thinks this book could help me or I need this book, if you go to my website, which is www.amybscher.com, and you scroll down just a little bit, there is something you can click where if you buy the book, you will also get access to a free live 90-minute group healing session I'm doing that I normally do as a paid class, but I'm doing it as a gift with the book. And for 90 minutes, I'm going to take you through some of these exercises to start really releasing this emotional stress and burden from your body so you can reconnect to your joy. And it's not a class where I'm going to tell you, what to do or put up a PowerPoint presentation, nothing like that. It's all guided energy work for 90 minutes. And I love these classes so much. We usually have a really, really great attendance and a great group. And so if you want to, if you're feeling called to get the book, make sure you go grab the access to the live energy healing session. And all you do is put your receipt number in and your name, and I send you, where to join, and it's all via Zoom. So make sure you grab that that if you're getting the book this week.
So beautiful. If you're getting the book this week. Yeah, exactly. Then you can go on over to Amy B. Scher. That is SCHER. So don't forget the S. So amybscher.com. And then you can take part in that. Amy, we're slowly coming to the close. You have been on this healing journey for a long time. And like you said, the last 10 years, you've been really kind of comfortable and in harmony, and know that a lot of these techniques that you're writing about and sharing have really helped you a lot. If there's one golden nugget that you'd like to leave our listeners with, what is something that is so important to you and that really helped you along the way?
This is another version of what I've already said, but it's so important. I'm going to say it again, to find a way to relax into your journey, to stop fighting, to stop pushing so hard. If I could give any piece of advice, that is what it is, because what that does is it calms the nervous system and it supports the immune system. And pretty much the entire book on how to heal yourself from depression when no one else can, all of the techniques tie into getting your mind, body, and spirit to relax, because in that, you open up that healing flow. But that's what I would say when you're feeling like you need to do more and you're not doing enough and you want to do this and X, Y, and Z. Remember my words of to choose the most relaxing path, because that is the most healing.
That is so true. That is also true. From my experience too, it's relaxation is very important for our immune system and staying healthy, which leads us basically also in this moment in time where there is a lot of fear, collective fear with a global pandemic happening, many, many challenges that are facing humanity. If you have a wish of where you'd like to be in 6 months, or where you'd like us to be in 6 months or 1 year, where would you like the world? What would you like to see?
I would
Just
like
play.
everybody to, yes, I would like everybody to be more tuned into their joy and what truly makes them feel joyful, and to commit to, there's a section in the book that's called Committing to Joy. And I think to commit to that being as important as so many other things that we put importance on. So really just to come out of this time realizing what brings us joy, and to make sure we are attentive to that in our lives.
Beautiful. Tending to joy, just like we would tend to other things, right? Just like we would tend to all our tasks of the day, we can also tend and really grow joy. Exactly. And what is the word, or if I say the phrase to you, love in action, what comes to mind?
To me, that's self-love in action, that taking actions, including our self-talk that promotes self-compassion and self-love. And from that place, I believe we are able to be there in support and in love for others more so.
Beautiful. Amy, I want to thank you so much. We are going to be celebrating tomorrow, everybody around the world. You can check out Amy's book. I think it's released everywhere. I'm assuming every big bookshop you can get it, right? In all the big online shops,
yep,
probably Kindle, paperback.
It's usually everywhere, yep, and it's in paperback, so that's also great. Some countries it comes a little bit later than the United States, but it will be everywhere very, very soon, and you can pre-order it too if it's not quite there yet.
Very good. Very good. Well, thank you, Amy, for being on the show today with me.
Thank you.
I wish you lots of success with your book, and I wish you, I guess, a lot of success also to continue to inspire people to relax with being simply human beings on this journey. And I think I also have friends that have gone through really debilitating depression, and just to encourage each other to take the time to feel in however we want to do it, like you said, whether it's, making a joyous, it's so hard. I know people that are so heavy, but just inch by inch, step by step. And I too have found great release in using some of these techniques in the tapping and I do this actually for years, the Thymus Tapping, etc. So It's a very nice way. It's very doable. I would say it like that. It's very doable. Everybody can do it, and you're going to feel better if you do it. And you're going to feel better, and then you're going to think of our conversation today, and you're going to think of Amy's new book, and that's what's going to happen. All right?
Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You.
Have a great day. Bye-bye. And
Take
celebrate
care.
tomorrow. You too.
Yes, I will. I'll relax.